Hi everyone, thank you for coming to this presentation. So this is a highly conceptual paper, which is a double-edged sword. So conceptual papers are either incredibly boring or incredibly interesting, because it's actually a conceptualization of a new phenomenon or something new to describe. So I'll try to make this interesting for you. So what is regeneration? What do we mean when we are saying what regeneration is? So a quick way to describe it is that it's something post-sustainability. It is a definition rooted in a theory called sustainability transitions, saying that we are simply not going fast enough. So if we want to reach climate goals, if we want to curb carbon emissions and so on, the sustainability or circularity levels we are reaching at the moment seem to not be working on the scale we would like them to be working. Therefore, here comes regeneration, which is something, okay, let's not target for net neutrality, let's target for net positivity when it comes to carbon emissions. And let's not look at resource efficiency and boundaries, but let's implement a donut economy principle on planetary boundaries, right? So it's a really far-reaching concept. And the thing with this concept is that it has been described, or rather it has been investigated mostly by architects for some time. So it's like 20 years or more that this concept has been existing. But it hasn't been researched that much in terms of construction. And in my positional paper, I am saying that in order for us to implement this in construction site processes, so in building production, HDI and the associated tools and processes and theories we have are a very integral part. So when it comes to regenerative strategies, as I said, we are targeting net positivity, resource efficiency, and environmental improvements. So not just mitigating harm, but actually doing more good. Sorry. And the regenerative business models and policies are actually all about equitable and interdisciplinary partnerships for long-term resource security. And this is, I think, where HDI can come in, because we have some flagship projects in Delft, in Sweden, in Norway, where we are talking about the implementation of regenerative principles, but how can we make this common praxis in the way we build and produce buildings? Well, I would say that we should investigate the human data interactions of the digital technologies and tools we are using in construction production in order for us to achieve that. So the good things of being friends with the session chair is that you can make images like this, and him not stopping you from that. So we have a white paper coming out, for which I had the joy of being the co-editor along with Professor Mohammed Kassam. And there we conceptualized HDI in the built environment as understanding interactions between actors and data throughout the built assets life cycle to improve the outcomes and value of data for both involved and affected parties. And we have three principles that are very integral to this concept: legibility, agency, and negotiability. I'll go more into that during the questions. Also, we have data generated by numerous technologies and for numerous reasons, and we also have primary data that we can get directly from the tools we're using, and also derivative data, which is more or less data of data, or maybe metadata that we can use. So how can we connect regeneration as a concept with construction production or building production and HDI? I used this methodology by two Swedish colleagues, Alvesson and Sandberg, which is called phenomenal construction methodology, which says that in order to write a positional paper or a conceptual paper, you have to find the nexus between theory, which in the case of my study is a definition, principles, and aspects of HDI in the built environment, the pre-understanding of the author's existing knowledge of research and practice in building production, HDI and regeneration, and the gap in integrating all these three concepts In this case, these are my preconceptions. And finally, the third pole is the empirics, which is the reflexive understanding of the literature on HDI and regeneration, and then seeing how we can integrate this into the context of building production. So to do that, apart from just rambling about theory, I had to do a literature review. And what I found from my literature review is that, as I said before, regeneration is being researched by architects, not that much by construction scholars, but on the other hand, there are studies on it. Regeneration has been investigated on the material and product level. For example, self-healing concrete, mycelium mixtures and stuff like that. On the project level, trying to find project management processes that are regenerative. I think ILIF has a paper on that tomorrow. And also on the neighborhood and community levels, where you bring in more people from the wider community, including the logistics, including users, tenants, clients, so that you can create regeneration also on the social or socio-technical level. And also, obviously, on the business model level, we need contractors that think regeneratively if we want to build regeneratively. So this is the one leg, and the other leg is the aspects of HDI that could foster regeneration in the built environment. And in there, I found a lot of disparate studies about flagship projects here and there that have this kind of regenerative aspects at play, and more or less all of the technologies that we have been talking about for some time, including the EC3 context, like BIM, digital twins, Internet of Things, smart cities, reality capturing, AR, VR, all of these things have been used to showcase some sort of regenerative aspects in flagship projects. So the thing is how we can generalize this. So implementing the phenomena construction methodology to conceive of this position and concept, I identified 6 dimensions of what HDI means in bringing about regeneration in building production. So we have the perceptual or cognitive dimension that has to do with data awareness and understanding on the part of stakeholders, cognitive load and decision support, and trust in data in AI outputs. We have the interaction and interface dimension, where we are considering ourselves with non-immersive interfaces, because this is where the difficulty is. Immersive interfaces that can be translated in relevant UIs, and also sensor-based feedback loops, meaning we get knowledge from sensors and we feed it back to sensors. Like, for example, wearable sensors that we can place on workers on site. Then we have the behavioral and social dimension, that concerns itself with user adaptability and learning curves, collaboration and knowledge sharing, and ethical consideration and data bias, which is really important if you consider what we're talking about. Then we have the environmental and systems dimension, which I believe it's one of the most complex ones, where we investigate data-driven material flows, and things like material passports can come into that as well. Energy and performance monitoring, which is something that doesn't necessarily come into place during the operational phase of a building or a project, but even during construction itself. For example, when we consider ourselves, when we consider the connection with utility networks while the project is being built. And systems thinking and complexity management, which I thoroughly believe needs an actual role in the managerial team for this to be addressed. Then we have the governance and policy dimension, concerning itself with regulatory compliance and standards. We don't have regulations talking explicitly about regeneration, I think, in any country, not in the Nordics, not even other contexts. Data ownership and privacy, and open source versus proprietary data models. And the final dimension, of course, concerns itself with the business models, namely how to make this thinking viable for contractors and how HDI can help with that. So how can we connect the profit in a profit-driven economy with a prioritization of resource efficiency and planetary boundaries, as well as in upskilling of personnel? So not only bringing posted workers and temporary subcontractors, but having a more permanent upskilling of people regarding regeneration and HDI. Now I realize that this is probably not readable at all, but this table also exists in the paper. But in the spirit of trying to put some more meat on this conceptualization of this phenomenon that I'm putting forward in this paper, I try to think of production process examples, potentially used digital tools, and potential utilization cases that can be connected with each of these dimensions that I just expounded upon, right? So just being very quick about it, so because we need to be aware of time. For example, for the perceptual and cognitive dimension, a production process example where this is at play is on site management. So site managers, when implementing HDI to try to manage a project that has regenerative principles applied on it, need to consider the perceptual and cognitive dimension. And potentially used digital tools could be AI-driven support systems, optimizing regenerative site planning with real-time feedback, or environmental impact assessment dashboards, improving the data awareness when translating regenerative building design into on-site production. By the way, if you read the paper, I actually have specific commercial tools in this third column of the table. I don't necessarily want to mention them now, but they are in the paper. So there are tools, some of them in a more experimental level, other of them are more like commercially available level, that can bring these things to reality, to life. They have just not been collected in a way that showcases concentrated efforts to bring about regeneration. And for example, a potential utilization case in this first row of dimensions is using digital tools in building production to model material reuse, requiring both some kind of intuitive data visualization for better decision making, right? Which is as well the HDI aspect here. So there are many examples that revolve around on-site production for the other dimensions as well. But this is us because we are tired after this presentation. The general understanding from this effort of conceptualizing this new phenomenon is that to conceive of regeneration in on-site processes fostered by HDI, you actually need to conceive how this is fostered outside the construction site, in the wider community, in the logistics and supply chains, in the wider socio-technical ecosystem. Now, of course, this is a limited paper. It's a conceptual one, so you can punch me as much as you want about it. But the thing is that I actually got funded about it with quite a lot of money. So we are actually also hiring a PhD position at the moment about this. Thank you very much.